Extra extra, read all about it. Welcome to the Empires Recap, and today we will be going over the chaos and drama of our somewhat respected rulers. This week, this game of D&D just got a lot more complicated with the new players on the board. They're all settling in and throwing everything out of whack in the meantime. Hopefully, they won't ruin the economy. The pirate in the Evermore means only bad things for Shelby this week. Joey is very offended at Shelby's attempts to win Catherine over, and has come to threaten her over going to the festival, even though Shelby literally has already made a drinks cart there. He storms out after having said all he needs, and Shelby sorely regrets not cursing him. Anyway, it's time to actually tell her grandma what's going on with the magic thing. She deserves to know she got kicked out of the academy. She doesn't want her worrying about the plan to fake her own death. Now, about the drinks card from earlier. It's festival time and she has to get going. She's brought diamonds like the advertisement said and brings a golden apple too. With Joey going, she can't be too careful. Flying in on a broom, this means she misses the entry booth, and the guy who mans it seems quite offended by this, but placated by the promise of money. The sheriff's badge ends up being illegally auctioned off, and Shelby buys it for 7 diamonds, and immediately sells it back to the sheriff for 10 because profit is important. The rest of the rulers find her drinks card and she has to get to work. She hands out a bunch of juice with fun effects, and everyone has a great time breaking into Ollie's tent performance after Pix mentions the dragon egg. There's a little spat when Joey spots her, but nothing too dramatic, and she sees Scott with Owen behind him, as a llama, thankfully, before Ollie drags her along to tell his tale of woe. Apparently, while she was gone, there was a whole drama, and Joey has decided to challenge her to a duel. Looks like that the golden apple came in useful after all, when she kills Joey in combat. Catherine doesn't seem very pleased though, and in the end Shelby and Joey call it truce when the 3 of them hold hands. The end of the festival is near, and it's time for the performance at the Rift. Ollie sings a beautiful song, but is interrupted by an earthquake of some kind, following a paper coming through the rift. They throw a note back, and it seems like an appropriate end to the festival. Back at the Evermore, Shelby's been hearing some odd noises coming from behind her house. She spots someone new, with bright blue hair wandering out of the fog.
An invasion is happening, and a strange lost man has been located in Critter City. At least Flip is there to help Lizzie in case something goes wrong, though. This man seems to come from the other side of the rift, but doesn't know who Gary and Sniff are. Confused by all the bipedal animals, Lizzie goes to fetch him a very normal tall bucket of milk.
Here, drink this. This should soothe you. This is perfectly normal. Do you feel better?
I feel better. This is normal.
He introduces himself as a dwarf, and Lizzie immediately makes him a Flip problem instead of her problem and sends him down to Gobland. New guests means new business opportunities, exactly what Lizzie is after. She decides to make a lodestone to lead them to Animalia, but...
Truth be told, I have actually never in my Minecraft life collected a netherite ingot. I'm gonna have to Google how to do this.
After a bit of lucky misadventures with ancient debris, she can finally craft her first netherite ingot, and so her lodestone. But phase 2 of this plan is a little bit more tricky when your parrots don't want to sing for newcomers. Well, time to trust the good old redstone and create a totally original tune.
And now they can stroll down the Lost Panda Trail listening to the crab rave. And by stroll, I mean sprint, because it actually moves along rather quickly, so you have to have some real speed to keep up with it.
At least now the Lost Panda Trail is finally open to visitors. After crafting 10 compasses and placing them in a cart at spawn, Lizzie is now fully ready to welcome any living creature to Critter City.
Now that the hermits are here, Joel decides to move up his plans for his own shrine to get a truly mega build in his base. He decides to name his villagers, who are all naturally named after their god, as they should be. Except for Fred. He's a rebel.
Anyway, let's get trading with them. Hey Beanton, hey Jolene, thanks for the emeralds, guys. I'm not going insane, guys. I love trading with you. I'm really glad this is the best way to get quartz. Thank you, Teddy Hines. Thank you, Beanie. Oh, you're all so kind. I love you. You're like my family.
After attaining the quartz he needs, he lays out the outline of his shrine before heading off to gather more materials. While he's grabbing some honeycomb for Dawn, he notices Gem's new Church of the Sun. Another god on the server? This won't stand. He leaves a note letting her know exactly how he feels about this development. Returning to Stratos, he builds the walls of the central circle of the new shrine. Speaking of hermits, Cub drops by asking for a stack of blocks representing Stratos for a challenge, and Joel gives him some quartz. Joel then discovers a golden chicken statue filled with chickens in the middle of Lore Village. After some satisfying chicken slaying, he takes the gold back to Upper Stratos, where he realizes he's just been pranked. It's the Stratosphere gold. While he's there, he finally gets around to fixing the exploded platform. Wasn't that from like a month ago? Finally, he heads back down to the ground to construct an arena, where he plans to challenge hermits to a fight. If they win, they will be rewarded with moss, gold, and quartz. If he wins, he gets bragging rights. While he's building, B-Dubs drops by, proposing an average height club for just the two of them. I don't know why they needed a club about that. Joel sends him off with some steak as his welcoming gift.
The Empires member has thrown Jimmy a Halloween party. How rude of them, considering the dress code was Toy Story. Catches Scar, new resident of Tumbletown, on stream, and he gives Jimmy a tour of the new train. The railway is still unfinished, but we don't mention that. The train fits through the tunnel through Lore, in case you were wondering. He gives Scar a mission to become deputy. It's kind of mercenary work, and the sheriff can't be caught doing that kind of stuff. He tells Scar his mission is to murder Flip and get the deputy badge back. He gives Scar a few days to think about it though, if he's willing to do it. Someone else who's staying in Tumbletown is Tango. Tango was Jimmy's partner in Double Life, where they lived in a ranch. And to make him feel at home in Tumbletown, Jimmy built a ranch for Tango to live in, a memory of their partnership in Double Life. He wants it to look good for Tango's arrival, and spends some time decorating and getting one chicken in the pen. It's time to show the build to Tango. He comes over the hills with his horn, and Jimmy gives him a tour of the new ranch. Tango loves it, but he did make an arrangement with the goblin to do some wonky redstone. They work it out. Tango will live in Tumbletown and work in Gobland, and Jimmy is very happy to have his rancher buddy living nearby.
Flip's goal with all the new people in Empires is to make Gobland as hospitable as possible. He's enlisted Tango as a wonk redstone engineer, and Scar is currently torn between Gobland and Tumbletown, and Flip wants to win him over. Eventually, over 3,000 blocks and 10 villages later, he finds a Jellycat. It's going to be a long trip home, but he gets her into his treasure room for whenever Scar next comes around. It's not Scar, but someone does pop out his nether portal. Impulse comes by looking for a spawner to grind some levels, and Flip puts it on his tab.
Up a second one. We can just start a nice little tab. It'll be great. Great.
He definitely needs more redstone if he wants any wonky engineering to happen. The best way to do that is to get some redstone from his cleric at the bar, who, well, he's a zombie now. He's had some troubles with the zombification machine, but it all gets sorted out and he just needs somewhere to put his new clerics. A new rail and a new building in the city, and eventually the villagers cooperate and he gets them all set up. Impulse stops by again to repay some of his debt in raw gold, but Flip was very serious about the whole stealing the Stratosphere gold thing, so... Now, he saw a sign earlier advertising a goblin tunnel service, and although he didn't put it up, it's not a bad idea. Over 400 blocks later and a lot of rails, there's a lovely train track that has a system to loop the minecarts. The Goblands is always professional. He adds a bit of wonk when building the actual tram station, and Impulse pops by again, this time with the Stratosphere gold. It probably wasn't a good idea to tell Impulse his plot, but it's fine. Impulse takes the newly opened tram back to spawn, not that the interior was finished, but then another visitor comes in the form of Mr. Potato Head? Scars arrive to gossip about the sheriff and maybe take some resources, but it's lucky he killed so much salmon for XP as Flip shows him jelly. Scar agrees to build something in the Goblands in exchange for the cat and gets immediately distracted by a goblin motorcycle. I'd get a little distracted too, not gonna lie. He shows off the skeleton spawner for Scar to repair his wings, ears, whatever, before they part ways, and Flip builds the above-ground entrance to the new goblin rail at spawn. Now time for that golden plan he had. He molds the gold into the shape of a chicken in the Lore Village, and then fills it with chickens, doing an impression of Joel in front of it. It seems reasonable retaliation when the sheer number of chickens actually starts to lag the server.
While the other emperors are freaking out about seeing gods and ghosts, Gem has an even bigger problem. Her friends are going to find out that she's a nerd. As one of the two emperors that are also a part of Hermitcraft, she has revealed that both Gems are actually the same character, and that Empires is her D&D group where she roleplays as a princess. How embarrassing! She takes her friends on a tour for Empire and shows off her bear, much to Impulse's jealousy, and tries to balance her two lives. Empire's is a bit different than the hermits are used to. The villagers are so weird looking, and nobody uses diamonds as currency here. Every religion needs a church, and her son worshipping one is no exception. After some terraforming and sheep pinkening, she's ready to lay the foundations of the building. Next is the exterior and the roof. Can we just take a moment to appreciate that gradient, please? And she can start sending out invitations to whoever's online while adding some finishing touches. Between the church and the required sunglasses, this is officially the coolest religion on the server. Pixel Rift seems interested, so she flies out to offer him his very own sunglasses, which don't quite fit his face, but it's the thought that counts. They commiserate over just how weird this crossover feels when involved with both the servers at once. And head back to Dawn for a trade deal so Gem can pitch him her religion. Gotta sleep first though. Finally, Gem breaks the fourth wall a bit to give us some insight to her character creation process and show off some awesome fan art that inspired her. There's only one Gem who changes costumes as she hops between servers, because that's how it is in real life too. And because nobody wants to deal with the headache of playing two characters at once.
Falls is back from her adventure, or maybe she never left? Anyway, she comes home to find Sausage and Ollie rummaging through her chest like me looking for a midnight snack. They pay wood and golden carrots for mending and unbreaking books, and Ollie flies away on a magical loot, leaving Falls very confused. A banner is in order, she decides, so she crafts a new one, and it is pretty cool if we say so.
Why is my town so popular today? Wait, who's that?
Seems Falls is popular today because Captain appears to bother her for materials for a challenge. She decides to give him mangrove and sends him on his way. Pumpkin Jack seems to have consumed all the pumpkins around her base. Falls decides to feed him more, so he can grow like a pumpkin tree, something like that. After that, she works on the interior of yet another tavern on the server and investigates the Herm Empire. She wants to know where these people came from, so she investigates the rift, where she encounters Pigs, Ollie, Catherine, and Sausage. Nothing bad could come out of this, right?
Man, Catherine was not thinking this week. What does she do the moment she meets new people? She immediately tells them her secret and shows off her secret base. This must be rectified, so she will make a test for the 3 new members to see if they can be trusted. First, she needs a meeting base, and what's better than one base than 2? First is the Battle Buddy base on the dark side, decorated with deep slate, heads, and spooky chains. Secondly is the Princess Protection place on the light side for daytime meetings. Here she places pretty amethyst carpet and plenty of plants. Once she has everyone in the PPP, Catherine asks each member a question, of which they pass with flying colors. They are rewarded with axes, a magical girl transformation of their own, and a mission for heads.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Ready to go.
Ready as ever. Let's go.
You guys
It's time for an outfit change. You guys look amazing!
Trio managed this task within the night, and now Catherine isn't alone in her monster slaying, even if they start murdering each other.
We catch up to Joey just after the festival, and with a freshly broken heart, he just wants to hide in Eversea and Bill to avoid thinking too much about it. Yet he's already lonely. If only there were other people in Eversea. Right on cue, Zombie Cleo and Zumavoid show up, and Joey reacts with the healthiest level of suspicion on the server. They are quite strange. They may be poor, but they are willing to call him captain, so they're swiftly welcomed to the crew. Captain Joe sets the 2 new crew on a search for parrots and dead skeletons, and while they're gone, he marks out a spot near his lighthouse for them to build a ship. A proper pirate needs a fleet. The hermits call him over to judge their work, and seem to have interesting definitions of parrots. Joey accepts the concept, though he does kill the one they named Reginald. Pirates need to know not to get attached to things. Cleo seems angry about the death, but Joey skillfully redirects that murderous energy towards a target, Witch Shelby. Sure, they aren't fighting over Catherine anymore, but she did humiliate him in the arena, so fair's fair. Sausage appears with a few hermits in tow and the witch herself, and Cleo's almost successful at the assassination before Shelby's cowardly retreat. Joey shows the other hermits around Eversea, offering them places in his crew if those sanctuary shields ever grow tiresome. He returns to find his crew has built a tiny boat named for the dead chicken. Not what he expected, but beggars can't be choosers. They've earned their hats. After a check-in on his shop and finding no sales and more stolen paper, Joey's crew calls him back over to see the new and improved Reginald. It's far more impressive, lined with quartz and holding room for a secret compartment, and christened with his blood as Cleo and Zuma kill him. Is this mutiny? Not at all! Just them passing a secret final test that Joey totally planned all along. He grants them diamonds and official pirate status in return for his things back, and the three travel to the rift to see if more crewmates can be found. It seems completely rotten now, unfortunately, so these two will have to do. Next step for them, wings, at a price.
As welcoming as Sausage is to the newcomers, he still wants to be cautious around them. After all, he is still being hunted by the king of his old kingdom. He visits his bunker, named the Nexus Village, where the frogs seem to have been replaced by birds, and proceeds to fall into another vision. Apparently this time he's in an assassin's guild. He shakes it off and climbs back up to the surface to party. The sheriff will pay for insulting Hermes. Via a party where everyone is dressed up as a character from Toy Story. Happy Halloween, Jimmy. He gets a visit from Pearl, the cleaner lady one, not the god, and they have an odd conversation about religion and dimension hopping. Sausage is not having the best time at all. Now he wants to do some tests on the rift, as there's clearly some magical shenanigans going on. He collects some pieces of rock and crystal nearby, but needs a building to store his research in. The lore building comes into fruition. He places the things he's gathered from it into the pillars along with his rift chronicles of those who have traveled through it.
Pixel Rifts greets us back with David, having built several more modules. He also heads to the museum to make some changes. The painting on loan from Sausage needs to be returned and a more permanent exhibit installed. It's about time, and the subject of the painting being on the server could make things awkward if she sees it. The reclusive historian has been particularly social this week, and there's a lot of run-ins with old friends and with new ones. First up is Corrales, happy to finally find someone else who knows what YouTube is. Pix gives him a tour, and while the orchard is his pride and joy, Corrales is distracted. Pix is happy enough to trade Corrales one of the birds in exchange for a construction IOU of a farmhouse for the orchard. They pop into the museum, and Corrales makes some personal history, killing his first zombie. If the museum needs security, Pix knows who to call. He points the hermit to the Great Bridge and sends him on his way. The other way. Shortly after, Pixel Rifts uses his straddling of the fourth wall to find Joe Hills, who's been struggling with some drowned near the Great Bridge. He helps him find the local food supply, and even molds some of the copper Joe's been mining into a trident for him. There's still plenty more, so Pix lets Joe meet David, and Joe offers himself as a test of how user-friendly the machine is. Pix's convenient appearance with a bundle for Impulse is not purely selfless. He spotted something the dwarf had found but left behind. His holy grail, deep slate emerald ore. The first ore goes to Impulse as a finder's fee of friendship, the second into the museum, and the third will serve as the item filter for the Deep Slate Emerald exchange he's had planned for months now. Gemini Tay has a stylish pair of new shades and a spare for Pix, though his don't fit quite right. They commiserate over being two of the people whose real lives are made the most difficult by the visiting hermits, and head over to Dawn to finalize some of the trades made in absentia, and to get the best shot of anything ever. Pix's pop-up end shop shows up just where Cubfan needs help. Seems the storm gods raided all the cities in easy reach, and it's hard to navigate without wings. Since he has his own pair already, Pix is happy to point man, flying out to an unpillaged city and giving Cub the coordinates. He finally has time for himself, which means building Crag, the Deep Slate Emerald Ore Exchange. Testing it with another piece found from the Dwarven Ore Vein Luck, Pix shows that the prizes are far more juicy than the stone ore side. Redstone trades and interdimensional philanthropy, all in a day's work.
Join us next week for more chaos and shenanigans. Thank you for watching, and thanks to everyone for helping out with the project. Check them all out below.